Chief Justice John Roberts was being interviewed yesterday. I think we got to explain what this was. You don't usually see this. You've seen it more in the modern era. It used to be that you never saw really interviews with Supreme Court justices. They were a bit secretive, if you will.
Yeah,
they were
normally you'd only see it if they were doing a book tour or something of that nature.
Even that was like very selective and rare.
That's right. So this was the 125th anniversary celebration of a court in New York. So this was in Buffalo, New York. It was 125th anniversary of this court, the U.S. District Court there. And so they had a fireside chat with the Chief Justice. So very nice of him to oblige. He was not in robes, in his suit. And one of the judges there was kind of leading this conversation with the Chief Justice. But obviously the elephant in the room is the kind of tension between the courts right now, especially the lower courts and the president, with all of the nationwide injunctions, something that, as Jordan mentioned, he will be in D.C. with our client, the state of West Virginia, and their Attorney General, J.B. McCuskey, next week. And so that's kind of what obviously everyone's going to want to ask the Chief Justice about. And he gave a couple statements. And when you put them side by side, it's very interesting, the choices that the Chief Justice is making here. So I'm going to play this first one, and this is about the independence of the court and why this is so important. And then I'm going to play his other statement, which kind of undercuts his argument about the independence of the court. So first, let's play bite one. And this is the Chief Justice talking about the co-equal branches and the separation of powers and the independence of the court.
In our Constitution, judges and the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government, separate from the others, with the authority to interpret the Constitution as law. And strike down, obviously, acts of Congress or acts of the president. And that innovation doesn't work if it's not, the judiciary is not independent. Its job is to obviously decide cases, but in the course of that, check the excesses of Congress or of the executive, and that does require a degree of independence.
And that is a very accurate statement. That was
just what, yesterday?
Precisely, that's right, last night. That is precisely the role of the courts. It is a co-equal branch of government. They do not have the same powers, but they have co-equal authority, and they serve as checks and balances on one another.
Why there's a lifetime appointment for these justices.
That's right.
So it doesn't just swing with the political tide.
But that's why Congress establishes and can add to the courts as needed. The court themselves doesn't create new courts. That's why there's all of these things. That's why there's confirmation of judges. So there is oversight, and the president appoints. So they all keep checks on each other. But we understand this. This is basic civics. But he's arguing we need independence. We don't need effectively saying the executive branch or Congress really speaking into what our powers are. They need to make the laws. They need to execute the laws, and we need to judge the laws. But then he was asked about the cause of impeachment by some members of Congress, maybe even the president, and how he responded to it. To me, a little bit undercuts his...
This is the same interview?
Same interview, just different portion of it. This is bite 14. You'll hear the judge that was having this fireside chat with the Chief Justice, and then the Chief Justice himself respond, bite 14.
What do you think of these calls for impeachment of judges based on the decisions that they've made?
Well, I've already spoken to that, and impeachment is not how you register disagreement with decisions.
That's what you're for, right? That's what you're there for.
That's what we're there for. Yeah.
So what he's referencing is that if you disagree with a decision, you appeal that decision, and ultimately the disagreement can land at the Supreme Court of the United States. So there's nothing wrong with that line. That is a truly accurate statement that if in the course of a case you lose, you have the option to appeal. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the Supreme Court will take it. But what I find interesting about this is that if he were truly wanting to set an example for Congress and the president, instead of saying that, impeachment, that's not how you register disagreements through impeachment. And I've already spoken on that. He could have just said impeachment under the Constitution is a power of Congress.
It's not on us.
And therefore, I'm not going to speak to impeachment. But we do have a constitutional framework of how to deal with that through the judicial system. Is the appellate process leading up to the Supreme Court.
That is not what he said.
The fact that he is basically saying that is not how you register disagreement.
Yeah.
Impeachment's a political process.
That's what we're here
We've
for.
learned that. We have learned that through the last 4, 5, 6 years that impeachment is a political process. And there aren't necessarily limitations other than high crimes and misdemeanors, which can be interpreted very vaguely by the Congress.
You really just have to have enough votes.
At the end of the day, you have to have enough votes. There's not an oversight from the court of impeachment. It is a political trial. And so the judicial branch weighing in on saying that's not how you use impeachment undercuts his argument of independence. Because if the judiciary has to have independence, Congress has to have the independence to make the laws, write the laws, with the oversight after the fact. But if he were starting to get involved and say, Congress, you shouldn't write this law, or if Congress were to maybe put forward a law limiting national injunctions, which is very much in the works, and he were to start speaking out on the legislation, that once again would him not giving Congress the independence to move that way. That's where, if you're going to be the leader and you're going to stand for this and talk about the independence, you can't in the same interview also start to criticize what is a constitutionally enumerated power of another co-equal branch.
We are so excited to announce the ACLJ's brand new app, completely redesigned to provide you with the best tools available to partner with us at the ACLJ. You can watch the daily Seculo program, sign the petitions, customize your ACLJ membership experience, donate with the click of a button, and receive up-to-the-minute critical updates that the mainstream media can't censor. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to your phone's app store, search ACLJ, and click install. It's that simple.